Hey, this is Kirk, the bariatric carnivore. Well, that was an absurd week again, particularly when it came to the White House announcement about this link or possible link to Tylenol and autism, which really got bizarre as people of Trump derangement syndrome who were pregnant were doing TikTok videos, taking large amounts of Tylenol, even though they were pregnant. And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, here's finally maybe an agency that's sounding out a warning of a possible toxic substance that might cause damage, and yet they, because of their Trump derangement syndrome, uh, quickly went out and started taking large doses of it in public, just despite Trump, which is absolutely ridiculous because, look, Tylenol is an inherently dangerous substance. It's not, it's over the counter, but it doesn't mean that it's benign. I mean, it's responsible for, a few hundred or so deaths every year from overdoses. Too much of it causes severe liver damage. You take it with alcohol, you got serious problems. It's not completely benign. And one of the things that I have done as I have become more health conscious, as I've become more low carb, as the inflammation in my body has decreased, I have really gotten away from taking anything like aspirin, Tylenol, Motrins, and stuff like that because I don't need them. And what happened is I got to the root cause. And the big root cause, the reason why I had body aches and headaches and stuff like that was because of all the inflammatory effects in my body due to diet. And when you go to a low inflammatory diet, which is what low carb is, I don't have the aches and pains. And therefore, I don't need those anymore. And as I've been progressing down this journey, I've gotten rid of almost all medications. I used to take about 10 medications every single day. And as I've gotten into this and become more aware of different effects of different medications on my body, I kind of realized there's no free lunch. You can take care of symptoms or you can take care of root causes. Those are your choices. And you can take your healthcare advice from Big Pharma, who is funding most of the information that our doctors get. And unfortunately, our biggest pharmaceutical company, Pfizer, behaves almost like a criminal enterprise. They've been fined over $11 billion for various flagrant violations of the public trust, falsifying data, things like that, and hiding evidence that showed that some of their medications flat out killed and hurt people. Yet that's a part of their cost of doing business, unfortunately. They get away with it because they realize, okay, if we can just get this drug on the market, we'll sell $5 billion worth of it, and we paid $2 billion in fines. We've made $3 billion. And you may be thinking, don't they have an obligation to public health? No, they have an obligation to their shareholders. And as a result, you got to realize that these companies are almost psychopathic. They behave with a casual disregard for you, your health. Their job is to make money, and it's not to look after you. I'm not saying that they're all horrible criminal enterprises. There was a company that actually did create a drug that cured hepatitis C. I mean, which was a horrible disease. It destroyed livers and it killed people. And unfortunately, Chase Manhattan Bank, when they heard about it, refused to invest in it because they realized there's no profit in cures. There's only profits in treatments. And they are really great at coming up with drugs that treat symptoms but don't really get to the root cause. And that's up to you. It's up to us, to start realizing that nobody's looking after you. I mean, the government's not looking after you. Despite all the problems we've had with the Pfizer vaccine, they still went to the White House. Um, they are still a huge company. They buy off the media through their advertising. Just take a night evening one night, watch 30 minutes of CNN at any given time, Fox News, any of them, and see how many ads in a half an hour segment are big pharma ads. Sometimes they're for some really obscure drugs that you would not think very many people would ever need, but they're not buying selling their drugs. What they're doing is they're buying favorable coverage. They're When was the last time you've seen a news article attacking a particular drug or trying to raise a red flag or warning you about it? They don't happen anymore. This used to be something that I used to see as a kid all the time. But really, in the last 20 years or so, that's gone away. They no longer discuss the dangers of medications at all. They don't talk about health anymore. They just talk about the latest and greatest so called cure, medication that is supposed to help you lose weight by injecting yourself with something that may or may not cause great harm in other ways. They won't talk about the downside. And it's only getting worse until, we realize that, trying to solve your medical problems through pharmaceutical agents and not get to the root cause through diet and lifestyle is actually creating more problems than it's solving. But that's up to us. Frankly, they're going to keep trying to make money. And unless you're willing to, break away from it, get out of the system, basically turn your backs on this stuff. And, this was brought home to me recently. I'd had a heart attack back last November. One of the drugs they gave me was a beta blocker because, the doctor said, he told me, he said, look, if you don't take this beta blocker, your heart's going to give out and you're going to die. And I went along with it for a few months. And finally, when I finally met with him, I said, look, these things are creating such problems. I don't want to continue taking them. And he grudgingly marked it on my chart saying no longer taking his beta blockers. Well, last month, there was a study that came out that said, guess what? Beta blockers work no better than placebo. Kind of what I expected, but they did create side effects. You at least with placebos, I wouldn't be getting side effects. And frankly, there's no free lunch with these medications. I mean, when you take drugs like Motrin, in huge quantities because you've got bad knee pain and stuff like that, they quit working and they destroy your liver and they destroy your kidneys. Too much Tylenol, same effect. And it's a danger and possibly could be linked, if you take it during pregnancy, to autism. And that's maybe one of the reasons why Johnson & Johnson sold off Tylenol. It was a highly profitable drug for a lot of years for them, but they got rid of it because they saw that link in their own internal documents. So what do? Well, the biggest thing that you can do is get free of it. I mean, when you start working at the root cause and making yourself healthy, you need fewer and fewer medications and work with a doctor to get yourself deprescribed. I mean, one of the worst mistakes I think I made in my healthcare journey was just quitting. I mean, I just quit. And thankfully, when I look back on the medications that I did quit, I happened to be on medications like, Wellbutrin, which probably has the least side effects, that it comes from sudden withdrawal. That there's other people on other antidepressants that it can be a very serious and in-depth process on how to wean off of them. So don't just quit without working with your a doctor, but trying to find a doctor nowadays that kind of specializes in deprescription is tough. Thankfully, you might be able to find them online. So, look up, take some time, look up doctors that kind of work with you in terms of lifestyle and work on deprescribing medications as you don't need them. It's only going to get worse. Just recently reduced the numbers for, what is considered high blood pressure, which means more people will be on blood pressure controlled medications, which again have their own host of side effects. They everything's a trade-off, and nothing, there's no free lunch, and you just can't take a bunch of tablets and expect to reduce a number, but doesn't really help you with your health. And the final thing I will notice is, the biggest number out there, the one drug that everybody loves are statins, which are supposed to save you from having a heart attack by lowering your LDL cholesterol. It turns out that uh, the woman that was the longest living woman, she was from France, or living in Spain, excuse me. She was from the United States originally, moved to Spain. And they buried the one number that everybody really should have been paying attention to, which was her LDL. And it was kind of sky high. She lived longer than any other human being with a sky high LDL and never took a statin on that one. Frankly, your body produces cholesterol. And I know it is associated with heart attacks, but frankly, when you look at the number of people with heart attacks, about most of them have normal to low cholesterol. It doesn't seem to be a causative agent. The big thing is inflammation. And if you want to reduce inflammation, low carb diets, exercise, good sleep. I mean, those are the pillars of health. And until we start working that in, we're going to have more and more health problems, and we're going to keep taking more and more medications, and we're going to keep getting less and less healthy. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I try to put out a couple of messages each week. If you like this message, please hit like and subscribe. Join this channel of other like-minded folks. I will talk to you again soon.